Welcome to Tammany Tech 101. I'm Grant Black, Director of Technology for St. Tammany Parish Government. Increasing access to high-speed internet is a priority for President Cooper, and we want to ensure that our citizens grow in their digital literacy. Today on Tammany Tech 101, we talk to Brandon Jeanmarie, Associate Director of Cyber and Privacy for Cross Country Consulting. Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks, Grant. I really appreciate you having me on. Really excited to be here.
Happy you're here.
Yeah.
So cybersecurity, cloud particularly, how'd you get into it?
So, man, it's funny. I think everyone in cybersecurity has a different path to how they get there.
Sure.
Very rarely does it start out, I want to be in cybersecurity. I was very lucky out of college at LSU. I got an opportunity to work for General Electric. So General Electric has a bunch of businesses. I worked in the banking division. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot of exposure doing many different things. I actually started out as a developer. After about 6 months of that, I figured out that maybe that wasn't the long-term thing for me. It was just very deep technical knowledge there, and it was very much a pleasure to be a part of that. But then I was able to rotate into a kind of a security operations manager role. Mm-hmm. I love the people aspect there. Really opened my eyes to kind of showing how someone with technical knowledge could bring value to someone who necessarily doesn't have that, especially in a security perspective. After that, I rolled into security automation work. This is where everything kind of came together for me. You know, I was working with development teams, I was working with operations teams, I was working with teams that are actually on the ground, actually doing physical IT work, right? And we were kind of bringing that all together, automating that as much as possible, and trying to inject security as best we could.
So I think coming from a development background and going to automation, I mean, that's kind of helpful.
Yeah, in hindsight, or retrospect, I guess you would say, it was really set me up for where I was after
Absolutely.
that. So that was 2-year mark. After that 2 years, GE gave me the opportunity to kind of pick where I wanted to go into. And at the time, GE had divested their banking business. So I actually rolled into GE Oil and Gas, and I was volunteered to be the product security leader. What that meant is we were building out actual applications and products to monitor offshore oil. And this was great because I got into sensor information and all that, and I was actually working with our clients to make sure their security needs were met. So I had a lot of time working with our development team of over 100 people, working with our operations team of over 30 people, and I was the only security guy, so I kind of had all that.
And I think to get that kind of experience, we're out with a client. Yeah. You know, so many IT people are behind the desk, sitting on the phone, don't really get out and interface, and I think that it's rare to find someone that you can actually put out as a technical resource and talk to clients. So it's a pretty good skill set.
Yeah, it's like I said, in retrospect, it really kind of set up nicely. I really spent a lot of time leveraging my automation knowledge in that job and my security knowledge in that job. And a lot of that just involved me sitting down with people one-on-one and saying, here's what you need to be concerned about from a security perspective, and here's what you need to do to prevent that, right? Which has just been really valuable in my career. So without even knowing that, I kind of got into like this consulting mindset. So the logical next step for me was to go to IBM and do consulting work. This was another great opportunity. I got to travel all over the world, doing security engagements with different clients. And then having a family and stuff like that, I needed to not travel as much.
Sure.
So I got a great opportunity at a DC firm, Cross Country Consulting. I've been there for exactly a year today, actually.
Congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's been like the best opportunity. The people there are amazing. We really kind of put people first in our approach to things across country.
So it's back to that hands-on approach that you've kind of had through your whole career?
Exactly. So I get a lot more people exposure in this role, a lot more team building effort. You know, I have managing consultants and senior consultants that I work with on a daily basis who are trying to build up and have that cybersecurity mindset. And we're placing them with clients and making sure we can deliver engagements in that setting.
So we're focused on cybersecurity today. I think it's important to define your term. So what is cybersecurity?
So such a vast term. I think
it's broad.
Yeah, you could really start anywhere. I think anywhere you have technology, you know, we're here in a studio. I had to scan a badge to get in here, right? It's something as simple as that, so something as simple as changing your password every 90 days. But essentially, it's protecting people, assets, and technology within the IT space is what I would summarize.
One of the things I like, you talk about the folks, cyber and privacy, because
Yeah.
I really think when you talk about cybersecurity, privacy is really that's the key.
Yes.
You're looking for privacy more than the security is built around that privacy. So I think it's good branding.
Yeah, and I think we can get into this way deep, but privacy is kind of walked hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
I would even say compliance is really getting there because we're having laws that are driving compliance, and then we're having privacy laws that are coming to effect as well. So really now it's hard to differentiate between cybersecurity controls, privacy controls, and compliance controls.
Well, it kind of should be. I mean, I think
I agree.
for a long time, you get into security, especially within government, it was very much checklist.
Yes.
Okay, have you done this? Yes, I've done this, I've done this. It was more like these are the traces that you're doing something as opposed to are you actually secure?
Yeah. Yeah, it's providing holistic solutions to people, right? Like, I never want to come in and say, here, we're just going to check the box without acknowledging everything on the fringe, right? Because
Sure.
that affects it as a whole. So, you know, if I go into a client and they want to set up firewalls to do network segmentation, well, what else are you exposing to the internet? Because we can't just set up firewalls in certain places. Now, I'm going to try to not get too much more technical than that. But, yeah.
No, but I think that's important because you feel like, oh, we got a firewall in place, we're good. And it's like, maybe.
Maybe. Have you looked at everything else? Is there other ways to get in? Yeah.
And even is it in the right logical place? Because that's one of the things that we're actually kind of doing some firewall changes, and that's, we're sitting down, well, where's the right spot, and what are you protecting? And it's back to that privacy.
Exactly. Yeah. I think privacy is driven by a bunch of different things today. Like we've brought up the laws. There's 5 states now in the United States that have specific privacy laws. I even was reading a few weeks ago that Fortnite lost a lawsuit around child privacy law, right? They had to pay millions and millions of dollars to affect that. So businesses are waking up. It's there. And I think the other thing is it's consumer driven. People care about their privacy. They care about information. We've spent probably the last 2 decades using Gmail and Google products and other products that they're free because they're selling our data. They're making money off of us. So it's different today.
I think people are becoming more aware, which is key.
It's very good.
So we're talking about how things have changed as far as compliance and how privacy, all this is melding. So what would you change today?
Oh man, there's so many. I think there's 2 main ones though. The first thing being cybersecurity, privacy, compliance work is so understaffed. There's a reason there's a big consulting footprint around it, right? The State of DevSecOps report is something that I look at every year. It's a report put out by different security tooling conglomerates. They talk about how...
So you threw out DevSecOps.
Yes.
Which was DevOps. Now we've added the Sec component
Which
into
now
it.
getting into DevSecPrivOps, so it's radically changing.
So you want to briefly just give
Yeah, of course. So DevSecOps is just the simple idea that development teams, security teams, and operations teams should work together. If anybody tells you anything different, they're wrong. It's just supporting people, process, and technology within that, right? So DevSecOps, the report comes out. Year after year, it states that for every 100 developers you have 10 operations people, and you have 1 security person. Just like when I was at my time at GE. And just the security team cannot be everywhere at once. And that's something that we're fundamentally going to need to change going forward. People need to have security awareness, and it might not be, hey, we need to hire a big team of security people, but maybe we need to educate.
But you look at
everyone
100
else.
developers, 10 operations people. Those developers all have different skill sets.
Yes.
Those operations people, someone's doing database, someone's doing OS, someone's doing there's all these different skill sets, and you go to 1 security person.
Who needs to know all of those things. So yeah, it
That's
can
a
be
pretty skilled
difficult.
person.
Yeah, it needs to be a pretty skilled person, or they need to have a heavy automation background, right? You're going to have to automate security checks into there, into your system, into your processes.
Well, back to automated testing. I mean, we've seen you have the gates, all your code has to go through.
Yeah.
I've seen security people going and actually coding their security into the automation tools.
Yes. Yeah, that is something that is an low-hanging fruit that we love to push with our clients because you essentially eliminate the need, which will lead to my second thing that I would change, which is we want to be proactionary instead of just responsive, right? If we can automate something in there or we can do something before something bad happens, that is completely ideal, and it saves organizations tons of money.
Proactive versus reactive?
Yeah, exactly. It's a great way to put it. 90% IBM did a study, 90% of vulnerabilities that led to eventual exploits in application code could have been prevented before the code was even written.
Sure.
So
that's just automation testing, is that?
Exactly. So it's three things. It's, hey, do we build in good security requirements? Mm-hmm. Do we think about security when we're designing something, which is something that I love to do. It's called threat modeling. We love to sit back and develop something in a secure by design way, as we call it. And then the last thing would be that testing, right? 90% of the things that can go wrong, you can catch in those three phases before that even gets out into production, right? And that's why we want to be proactionary in those steps, knowing we still have to be responsive down the line because we can't protect against everything. But yeah, we want to ensure we're taking proactive security steps.
But I think, you know, I've been in the industry over 25 years. When I first came in, you had that jack of all trades mindset.
Yes.
You know, I was a Windows administrator, I was a Linux administrator, I was Unix at the time, and then databases was, and then the web server. So I kind of was like, oh, you do everything. That was the idea of you're that, you know, all in one go to. And then we start to have developers separate off, and I think we've seen that everywhere else. And I think security is probably about ready to make that split.
Exactly. It's really based in culture. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's one of the reasons I'm at cross country, because the culture there is people first, right? We need to acknowledge that not everyone has this jack of all trades skill set, and work collaboratively together to resolve that, right? I never go into an engagement or go into working with someone expecting them to know everything, and I expect to learn in return. And I think that's one of the key tenets of DevSecOps in general, is having a collaborative mindset.
So you talk about culture, and I think culture is really important in any job. And I feel like there's a generational gap on the importance of culture. I think younger people, and that's what I'm seeing, it will take a little bit less money for a very positive culture. Yeah. And that's becoming as important as benefits and any other, you know, markers.
Yeah, I think, watch how I phrase this. I think you can go chase after the money if you wanted to. But I think people are wising up to say, hey, I need to be put in a position where I can grow. Yeah. And then money will come further down the line for sure.
But younger people seem to get that balance.
Yes.
You know, where I want to do these things personally, and I need a job that affords me to support myself and do these things. So it's an interesting time where you're seeing this change.
Yeah, it's definitely a change in mindset. And I think, you know, I think even Generation 4 has had that mindset. They wanted to be in a position where they could grow. I think we're seeing there's such a middle level now, right? There's these tech giants that you could go work for and kind of be in a certain atmosphere. And then there's this middle growth area where, yeah, you're serving a very big need, you're learning a lot of good things, and you're around people that are supporting you. Sure. It's really nice.
So we talked about how Google had kind of basically sacrificed your privacy for profit, giving you a free product. So what are the other driving factors increasing the, I guess, awareness of privacy?
Yeah, I think it's just heavily consumer driven, and then we've talked about the regulatory piece, we've talked about that pricing model piece where you know, we're sacrificing privacy essentially to get a free product. Sure. I think the consumer is really driving it now. People want to protect their information. People are sick of getting calls or getting specific things that they know they didn't give their information to willingly. You know, I don't know if you've bought a house recently, but you have to sign about 20 papers saying that they're not going to sell your privacy or sell your information. But people are seeing privacy as a human right now. KPMG did a study where like 80% of people saw it as a human right.
I think people didn't understand the data was being collected on them.
Yes.
And as they understand the value of that data.
Yep.
And now they want to protect that as an asset.
Definitely. And we're also seeing the business side of it too, right? Especially with these laws going into place, businesses are realizing that they're now responsible for your data. Sure. And there's fines now attached to that if something were to go wrong or that data were to leak or be mishandled in some way. So now, you know, I tell small business owners all the time, there's going to be a day where you're going to need to be able to answer for the data collected on your customers. And right now you're thinking you're just invoicing, but you're holding PII.
Well, those risk managers that, you know, just dealing with fires and those things, they were all of a sudden they have ransomwares on their plate, but now data.
Now you have to be a good data steward. Sure. Is really what it's coming down to.
All right, so when we come back, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about where you see the future going. So stay tuned.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Janice. Just here to protect you from cyber criminals.
Hi, Tessa.
Hey, Jay. Do not give that shady website your password.
Did he get phished? Cyber criminals.
We got this.
Always do. Get the kid.
I got the kid.
Shoes off, please.
Move it. Go to the real site and create a stronger password.
Hit him with the...
Multi-factor authentication.
Come on. This is the cinch. We'll take it from here. Frittata?
Ooh, throw some guac on mine.
Okay, hon.
Protect yourself before you connect yourself.
Visit protectconnect.com to learn more.
Welcome back. We're here with Brandon Jeanmarie of Cross Country Consulting, and we'd like to talk about the future. So what do you see on the horizon as far as cybersecurity and what's really catching your attention right now?
Yeah, it's rough sometimes being in cybersecurity because you see emerging technologies and you're really excited from the technical mindset of like, wow, that's going to be really cool to play with and use. But then like the devil's advocate comes in the back of your mind. It's like, how can this maliciously be used? It's really
How can this be used as a weapon against me?
Yes, exactly. Or how can this affect people you love?
Yeah.
There's two big things that I talk about often that I think are emerging. The first one, and I got a lot of exposure to this at IBM, was quantum computing.
Sure.
So we're talking about essentially a computer 100 million times faster than any computer we have today. So you're looking at a computer that transmits information solely on use of light, right? So really exciting in the fact that we're going to have computers that are super, super fast one day. We're also going to have computers that use a tenth of the electricity.
So how does these fast computers, how did that affect like encryption algorithms and?
You're going right into the point. So a lot of the security, people don't understand this, a lot of the security controls we use today really break down to having algorithms that could not be broken by a computer today. So all of a sudden...
Not in a reasonable amount of time, right?
Not in a
We just said,
reasonable
okay, it's so absurdly long for you to crack this algorithm, we're just going to use this.
Exactly. Just to give you an example, if you had a 5-character password and you put numbers and special characters into that, historically it's supposed to take you 100,000 years on a computer today to crack that. But if you were to hand that to a quantum computer, it would take a matter of seconds, right? So now all these controls protecting our data, protecting our privacy, protecting our physical machinery could be broken in the matter of seconds.
So I think we think about this easily as how it affects us today, but if a password said, or like a database of passwords was stolen 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, and a quantum computer catches it.
Yeah, and not to get into the government realm, but there's been government information that has been encrypted and stolen.
Sure.
And if we were to get to a quantum computer and put that information in there, that encryption could be broken. And even stuff that was taken, like you said, years ago, could still come out in the future if there's these quantum computers. Now, as far as we know, there's not a functioning quantum computer today. However, IBM, Google, they've all said they're going to have one in the next few years. Some even say like a year. And then, like you said, we don't know
If they tell you they're going to have it, they probably have it in testing.
Yes. So I've actually seen a physical test of one at IBM. I've actually seen that. These things are massive. They need to be cooled in a certain way, but they don't use a lot of electricity either, so it's hard to kind of track that.
So if we take quantum computing and add that with AI, ChatGPT, some of the big hot buzzword right now in IT.
Yeah, it's funny. Again, playing devil's advocate, I love the idea of AI. I think my English teachers back in high school would not have liked me if that was around. But it's just awesome to see something. I actually was working within ChatGPT a few weeks ago, and it coded the whole front end of a website that I wanted to make within seconds. So really powerful tool. Again, there's some things that concern me when you have such a powerful tool like that. Who's brokering access to that tool is one of my main concerns. Right now it's free, anyone can use it, but is it going to get to the point where people are going to have advantages that other people won't have? That's one of my concerns. Another concern, whenever we have data, whenever we're getting fed data from a system, we really get concerned about 3 things: confidentiality of that data, integrity of that data, and availability of that data. Confidentiality, we kind of talked about encryption, not as concerned with that in AI. Integrity of the data, though. I've seen conversations with these devices to where the answers change, right? Or someone could confuse it into saying, for example, 2 + 2 = 5. We've seen that happen on a bunch of AIs. Twitter actually had an AI come out 4 or 5 years ago that got so warped that they had to take it down because it was saying malicious things, right?
I remember that.
Yeah, so again, if we're going to go to these systems that people are going to inherently trust, we kind of see this with Wikipedia today.
Well, I think you look at Gmail. When we first got Gmail, no one was worried about privacy because free email was cool. I think, are we there with ChatGPT where people are actively giving input without it? I mean, what are the privacy concerns there that we may not even be thinking about?
Yeah, privacy concerns, and you just have use concerns. You know, it's you have such powerful technology. Could someone use it in a malicious way? Could someone feed it data to possibly crack a password?
Sure.
You know, so access and integrity of the data, and then just the use of that application. But really exciting technology. I think you're going to get to a point in the next few years where you're going to have an assistant that's essentially an AI that you can tell it to go do stuff for you. Which leads me to my last concern, which is how is it going to affect the job market, right? If we have a system that can do small tasks, is that going to affect the job market? I think it will, but we'll have to see how that plays out.
So I won't go real deep into it, but everybody's blocking TikTok now. It's become very popular. I think, 2 years ago it was a big problem. We're going to block it. No, we're not going to. Now everyone's blocking it again. What's the problem?
Privacy, in a simple word. When you sign that little end user agreement, whenever you use any application, if you were to sit there and slowly read TikToks, you would understand why. So it's taking all the information it can off the phone. It's taking information from other apps.
So when you say all the information it can off a phone,
yes,
specifically text messages?
So I don't think they take text messages currently, but they do identify, hey, the owner of the phone, your home IP addresses, your home network passwords.
So from that home network passwords, shocked me. But so when you say your home IP address, from that IP address, what can you determine?
Well, we can determine a lot of things. We can determine location from that, which is the big thing. So now TikTok knows where you are located. Again, they're taking network information. So why would they need that? Why would they need your Wi-Fi password? And then they're also reaching out to other phones connected around you. So it's crazy to think that only one person in a family could have TikTok, but it's still kind of pulling information, Bluetooth and everything around it. So
it's tracking who you're close to.
Exactly. So it knows how you group. And the thing to keep in retrospect here is whenever you have a company based out of China, in order to be a company in China, it has to be a joint venture with the government. So the Chinese government is working within that business.
And when we upload videos to social media, most of the time they strip the geolocation.
Yeah.
But they have it. Then they pull it off. So they would have the geolocation of every video to the foot. Yeah,
to the foot. They know, basically that whole longitude and latitude geolocation. They can pinpoint where that video was taken at all time. There's also applications to geomapping, right? If they have phones collecting all this information in all these different areas, that's exciting in the fact that we might have literally to the centimeter maps of things in the future. But knowing that they're taking that information, that's why there's some concern around government employees in the U.S. having that, because we know where they are.
So were they to take the information from that phone, who owns it, your Wi-Fi password, link that to LinkedIn, identify where you worked, you could essentially be tracking homes of employees.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to get into conspiracies or anything, but it's
a possibility.
Exactly. They now have the information to say, here's where he works, here's what he's doing, here's what he has access to that we want, right? So they're basically building out a case for something, So no one in my house has TikTok on their phone.
So we know the hackers have gone to LinkedIn to identify specific positions within specific companies. I mean, that's been a hacker tool.
Yeah.
So to say, well, is it a stretch for social media companies to do the same? Well, maybe not.
Yeah, part of our cyber and privacy team, we have a white hat hacker team called Icebreaker. They're wonderful guys to work with because I learned so much from them. And they kind of took me through a scenario where LinkedIn was in its infancy, and you could essentially pull all the information off of LinkedIn. So you now had all the people's information, their numbers, how to contact them, where they worked. That quickly got remediated. But that's what we're seeing, is that people can pull all this information off and exploit this in malicious ways.
None of the places individually have anything that's particularly dangerous. It's when you aggregate everything. It's that aggregation that causes the problems.
Yeah, and we can get into this a lot, but attacks are always centered around getting information from people. It always starts with people, right? And that's, hey, we're looking in your trash to see what account numbers you have, or we're looking online when you post about your pet, what your pet's name is. You need to be cognizant of all those things.
Sure. So if someone wanted to get into cybersecurity, you said there's a lot of different areas. Everybody's got different backgrounds. So what gets you in?
So it's very easy to get into. I think it's harder question of where you want to focus, because you can't do everything in cybersecurity, right? You have the physical kind of pen testing route, you have the architecture route, you have the security development route, you have the security engineer route. I think the first thing is just to immerse yourself in that content, kind of get a baseline understanding of ways you can work in cybersecurity. There's just so many things currently. One thing that I'll say that greatly helped me was understanding what threat modeling is. Threat modeling is essentially looking at a design. You could threat model your house, you could threat model an application, you could threat model a database, right? And understanding how threat actors would interact with that. How am I going to protect this? How am I going to protect the data within it, right? And Adam Showstock has a lot of great free content on that. He's called the Godfather of threat modeling. That's really where I kind of started my love of cybersecurity. Next, there's there's a bunch of free websites out there. Pluralsight even has some free videos. YouTube has some free videos. There's even paid subscriptions where you can get on and you can learn things. You had Dr. Carlson.
Dr. Jim Carlson from North Shore Tech, yeah.
He talked about his certifications around cloud. AWS has an AWS security certification. I highly recommend those to a lot of my people on my team. But you have Azure, GCP, you have all these certifications. I think if you want to go for a certification where you kind of get the full breadth of security, the Security Plus is a great certification to start. And then you eventually graduate to something more expansive like the CISSP.
Yeah, so I've got Security Plus. Yeah, it's a nice base. Just kind of, I guess, like I tell my guys, whenever you get a job, there's 100 buckets at every job. You want to fill 2 of them all the way up, or you want to fill all of them a little bit of the way up, and figure out what kind of person you want to be.
Yeah, and I that's my typical recommendation to people. Certifications are great to ground you in fundamental, but you're really going to get domain expertise by experience and working within that, for sure. One of the final things I'll add is join local groups. There's a lot of cybersecurity groups around here. They actually have a hacker group based out of New Orleans.
White hat, hopefully?
Yeah, I hope so. There's a Cloud Security Alliance, CSA. They do a lot of security work in the cloud. That's a great group. They have a chapter in New Orleans as well. And then you have like the ISC Squared, which puts out the CISSP. You can join those chapters and stuff like that.
So what can people at home do?
Yeah, so this is... a lot of the old ladies at church, I give this recommendation to. So there's a few things. And I'll start by saying this. Whenever I work with a client, I always say that cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility.
Sure.
And that drum has been beat a lot. But simple things you can do. Keep your software up to date. Update the software on your phone. You'll see a lot of times when you update your iPhone, there's security fixes in there.
Sure.
That's because Apple has found security vulnerabilities and they're trying to fix them.
So setting your phone to automatically update.
Yes, if you can do that. I know some people will have some data charges there, but if you can do that, that's great. Yeah. Same thing with every other device that logs onto the internet in some capacity. So laptops, iPads, Xbox, like everything.
Sure.
You want to do that. The next thing is to actually protect the device from someone just accessing it, right? A lot of teenagers, let me start there. A lot of people that I've seen just don't even have pins on their devices, right? Just a passcode to log in. Same thing with your laptops. Rotate your passwords. People hate when I say this, but we want to rotate our passwords. The recommendation is every 90 days, right? And you don't want to use the same password across all the devices, right? Concerns there. I've had some people say, well, I have this password, this one password app or something like that. Those are great. You just want to make sure you're using a vetted one. LastPass, for example, had a security hack to where everyone got access. So you put all your passwords in one place. Someone gets to
last month? I mean, it was very recently.
I think it was 2 months ago. 2 months ago.
So what about multi-factor?
Multi-factor is great. I use the Azure Authenticator app.
Sure.
So you can actually download these apps on your phone, and when you log into certain accounts, you can authenticate with that app. So multi-factor, if you break it down, just means you have 2 factors that you're getting authenticated.
It's something you
by.
have, something you know, something you are.
Exactly. So
go.
you need 2 of those 3.
Yeah. So with these apps, I mean, most apps now, or most websites, especially banking and those things, allow you to put multi-factor on.
Yeah, I log into almost everything with the Microsoft Azure Authenticator app.
Anything that lets you, I'm the same way.
Yeah. And then we're even seeing stuff like Facebook get into the authentication app business as well, like where they'll authenticate you with other apps, Gmail as well. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing those things. And then the last thing I'll say is probably the most common thing, and what people don't understand is that people get a lot of phishing email, they get a lot of scams over the phone. The malicious attackers, they typically try to socially engineer you. They want to get information from you. So there's a few things you can do. Make sure you're discarding your sensitive information on paper in a safe way. The next thing is don't put stuff on social media that lets people know intricate things about your life. See
who's my best friend, what's my favorite color, and
what
what's
street
my
you
dog's
grew up
first
on.
name.
Yeah.
Literally designed to answer your security questions.
Exactly. Literally designed to give you security questions. And then if you have something sensitive, make sure you're storing it in a sensitive way. This is even when you're working at a business. You know, that icebreaker team that works with us, they'll go into people's offices and look for information on desk. You know, so just store things in a safe way. And I think that'll get you most of the way there for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm on LinkedIn if anyone would like to reach out, and check out our website at crosscountry-consulting.com.
I appreciate it.
So awesome.
Thank you for watching today, and look forward to having you again.